Hollybeck at Floralands, with plants galore and so much more. Hollybeck is the place to be. Sponsors of the Nottinghamshire Garden on Notts TV.
I'm Stuart Dixon, and I believe that gardening is a brilliant way to keep your mind and body healthy. Big or small, gardens can help us all lead happy lives and give back to nature. No one needs specialist knowledge to get started, and you'll never ever stop learning. I've spent my life trying to get the best out of the land, so I've got plenty of tricks of the trade for beginners and more experienced enthusiasts. So join me in my Nottinghamshire garden. Together we can get the city and the county blooming. Welcome to the Nottinghamshire Garden. In my life, I've visited gardens throughout the UK, in fact all over the world, as far as New Zealand. But this is the hidden gem of Nottinghamshire. This is Felley Priory. This is truly an amazing garden. It has that feel of a quintessential English garden about it. There are many plants here which come from other parts of the world. Some are tender, some of the salvias, which are tender type plants, but they blend into this glorious, absolutely stunning English country garden. I'm with Michelle, who is the manager at Felley Priory. Tell us a bit about this place. It's absolutely amazing.
I came here in February 1995 when Mrs. Choice Musters was here. Sadly, she passed away 14 years ago now, but she was an amazing lady and she designed the garden. So when she came here in 1973, there was literally nothing here at all, just a walled garden. So she knew she wanted herbaceous borders, so the herbaceous borders went in, which then she needed some shelter. So the yew hedges were planted. And then gradually from there on, everything just evolved. She'd start with a small border and then Mrs. M being Mrs. M made it wider. Somebody would give her some bricks and she'd say, right, we'll do the brick pergola. And she was an amazing lady, and now the younger generation have taken over. But we're still trying to keep the garden very much a plants person's garden. So there's some rare and unusual bits in there. There's your cottage garden favourites. We've got a very small team with us, and we all just work together, and it's such a nice place.
And how many staff have you got here?
So basically we've got Lindsay, who is our head gardener, but she's just part-time now, and then there's my husband Anthony and Darren, who's full-time. We've got Libby, who does 3 days a week, and then we do rely on some lovely volunteers. Some of them come regularly, some of them just probably come once a month, but without them you know, we really do enjoy having the volunteers with us. So we're just a small team, but you
do an amazing job. And we've been joined by some members of your staff.
Yeah, this is
here.
Meg.
Hello, Meg.
So Meg's one of mine, and Stan's just pootling along now. He can't keep out of the picture. Come on, Stan.
So this is the full staff complement.
Yes. So they'll be greeting you whenever you arrive at Felley.
Well, thanks very much, Michelle. We're going to have a wander around and look at this beautiful garden.
Well, it's lovely to have you all here.
Thanks very much. Thank you. This is Magnolia grandiflora, and there's a bud just starting to come through there. White flowers, absolutely huge. And if you think of the fragrance, think of hyacinths times 10 times 15 times 20. They're so fragrant. Completely evergreen, not native of this country obviously, tends to be sort of China. But when you buy this to plant in your garden, look at the label. I've said this many times, to the ultimate height and spread of anything, because this glorious magnolia is a good 30 feet high and probably 20 feet across. And this will go over bedroom windows and so forth, so common sense has to prevail. Pruning, with these only light pruning, except if it's gone across a window or a door or something like that, then you've got to cut it back. Usually they say after it's flowered, but with these they tend to flower sporadically through the year. I would tend to prune this sort of October onwards, when it's a bit more dormant then. And you could take a few feet off the top if it was really too tall. But grace any garden, glorious flowers, be with you for many years. I think we all dream of having enough space to create something like this. This pond, large pond or small lake. When does a pond become a lake? It's absolutely glorious and peaceful and quiet. Haven for wildlife. In the time I've just stood here, so many dragonflies, damselflies. The fish are just scooting around there. They look like orf to me, look like golden orf. A huge big swathe of water lilies, the lotus flower, the large ones, the smaller leaf ones here. It's so peaceful, it's so tranquil. There's a moorhen just gently scooting along between the lily pads on the far side. This is magical, absolutely magical. If you're going to create a pond in the garden, I'll be completely frank, ponds are hard work. The smaller the pond, the more work involved in it. And a lot of people say, yes, but you don't get the clear water like there is in here. If water circulates, whether it be a pump or whether it's fed by a natural stream or spring, it tends to be clear. If you've got a small pond and it starts to go green, plenty of oxygenating plants in it, and try to get the balance between the plant life and the wildlife as well. There's a damselfly just there, glorious blue, and another dragonfly. At this time of the year they'll be shortly laying their eggs and the larvae will stay in over the winter, then emerge next year. If you create a pond, don't be in a hurry. It will probably need a liner. Put the water in, leave the water for quite a few weeks before you introduce the plants, and don't be rushed to fill it full of goldfish or any sort of fish or things like that. Just let the water settle down and balance perfectly before you introduce fish. If you're being problemed by herons or cats or anything like that, don't bother with the fish, just have the plant life in. But the main thing is to create something that is quiet and soft and sort of magical in some ways. I mean, I'm standing here in full sunshine now, but it'd be nice to sit here in the evening, just watch the sun go down, and just watch the surface of the water. It's such a pleasure to be at Felley Priory. Glorious, glorious place. You can't come to Felley Priory without noticing the topiary. It is absolutely superb. And I'm in awe of people who can do this, because topiary is an absolute art form. These and all the hedges are yew. There's some box and some beech a little bit further down. But yew is the perfect plant to grow for topiary. And when you cut it, don't sort of hack in straight away, but you'll need to cut probably once, maybe twice a year. And to start with, to get the shape, cut hard into the actual wood itself. The new growth then, soft green new growth will come out, and just gently trim it round. You're better actually with electric or battery hedge trimmers and carefully go round. It's like sort of horticultural hairdressing in some ways. Don't sort of go mad at it and hack it away, because you stand back and think, I've ruined it, and you have for another year. So little and often, and go round, and don't rush it, take your time to do it. But once you're accomplished in doing it, and the gardeners here have been doing this for many, many years and have created some absolutely wonderful sculptures. So whether you want a box, a pyramid, or you want to work towards a swan, or anything you like, take your time doing it, be careful what you do, and also just use a bit of health and safety. If you're using any hedge clippers, just make sure that you're clipping quite well. Remove all the debris that you've cut off, then just stand back and look at it and you think, that's great, there's a little bit more sticking out there. Go back, trim that back. Don't rush it, and in the fullness of time, you may wind up with something like this. I did say I've visited gardens all over the place, and I always judge a garden, apart from the plants, by the quality of the cup of tea you get. And this, you won't be disappointed. And also the cake as well. I love this job.
Hollybeck at Floralands, with plants galore and so much more. Hollybeck is the place to be. Sponsors of the Nottinghamshire Garden on Notts TV. Hollybeck at Floralands, with plants galore and so much more. Hollybeck is the place to be. Sponsors of the Nottinghamshire Garden on Notts TV.
So Jan, what's your question?
Well, I've got a few really. I mean, they're mostly about fruit trees. I could keep you here all day, but I'll ask you about the fruit trees. Now, the cherry tree, you know, it's oozing like a sap, a syrup.
Right.
So, can you tell me what that is?
And that's from a wound on the tree?
That's from a wound where I actually pruned it.
Pruned it, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
What it is, the sticky stuff, it looks a bit like golden syrup.
Yeah.
It will harden. That's actually amber.
Wow.
So you make a necklace out of it.
Yeah, I'm really chuffed about that, actually.
It's the sap of the tree, it oozes out.
Yeah.
With cherry trees and plum trees, they are prone to bleed when you actually cut them. So you cannot get a wound seal from a garden centre, just paint that on. Or just leave it letting it stick.
Because
it'll be fine.
It won't do any harm. So the next one is the plum tree.
Right.
Why, one year she was actually so laden with plums, her branches were snapping, you know, absolutely fantastic. Last year, hardly any fruit. How can I try and keep the aphids away? Is there any?
Well, with the actual fruit itself, that could be caused by late frost.
Yeah.
Because when cherries, plums and stuff, they get the lovely white blossoms in the springtime. If you get a late frost, it takes the blossom off and you lose the fruit.
Right.
But when it comes to things in plums, like plum moth, open it up and the little grubs inside.
Right.
Have you got that? Yeah.
No, not really, but I have on the apples.
You got the apples, that's codling moth.
So they have, even though I've put the tape round the trunk.
Yeah, that will stop them because the females are flightless.
Yeah, right, and they crawl up the trunk, is that correct?
Yeah, over winter in the ground, they'll start to crawl up into the tree itself.
Right.
The males fly around and they can smell the females and they go in and mate with the females. Will then bore into the fruit and you've got the grubs inside.
Right.
You can get a trap, a pheromone trap, which you hang in the tree, and that puts out the scent of the female, the pheromone of the female.
Right.
The males then circle around, get into the trap, can't get out again. Unfortunately, have a sticky end. But there we go.
I don't mind sharing it with nature as long as I get a few.
That's it. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Thanks very much indeed, Jan.
Lovely to meet you, Stuart.
So, Nick, what's your question?
Silver birch.
Right.
straight up. It used to be straight up, lop the top off, so it's now a sort of umbrella-y shape.
Right.
But I want to tidy it up and get rid of some of the lower branches. And it's just when is a suitable time of year to prune it, really.
Yeah,
That's all.
the tree's in good condition otherwise.
Yeah, it looks fine. It's just it's a bit busy.
Yeah,
really.
so you need to reshape.
Yeah,
I would do it and probably from October onwards, in the dormant, but not in the depths of winter when there's hard frost, something like that.
right. So it's all right. Now it's it's covered in leaves, obviously, at the moment.
Well,
and
as soon as the leaves start to fall, yellow and start to fall,
Yeah.
you can just shape it how you want it.
and it's all right just cutting the branches off.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it won't,
Probably the best thing to do is to do it over 2 or 3 days,
Right.
rather than hack away and stand back and
just
think,
oh,
"Ooh,
blimey.
crikey!"
So-
And then go back to it a week later and probably trim a little more. You won't really get any hard frosts just yet.
No.
But if you did, a small amount of dieback wouldn't do any harm at all. But the pendular ones are absolutely
Yeah.
gorgeous. They've got a lifespan of about 40, 50 years.
Right.
And then they all succumb to
Yeah.
a virus.
All
But
right.
have to be okay in the meantime. When you wander around the borders at Felley Priory, you may see some very, very interesting plants. Some are quite unusual. Chances are they've got them in the nursery because a lot of propagation is done in the nursery and then planted in the garden. And you can wander around here and there's a whole range of things to see. But it's autumn and here we have delphinium. Tend to think of delphinium really as a summer flowering plant, which it is. If when it's flowered, if you then cut it back, it will flower again in the autumn. This one is a very, very nice well, it's a fully double actually. It's a fully double one. And you can see, if you just look at the back of the flower, there is a spur because delphiniums are related to larkspur, and there's the spur sticking out of the back. But this is a very, very nice one called Moonlight. Absolutely glorious. Completely perennial, so it will die down in the winter time and start to come through in the spring, flower again in the summer. When it's finished flowering, cut the flower spike off and you'll get another flower later in the year. The windflowers, the anemones, are such good value. There's a whole range of these in the garden there and they can naturalise. Anemone huperensis, there's a whole range of colours now. The white ones, probably one of the best white ones, is one called Honorine Gerbert. And there's another nice one called Whirlwind. There is one called Queen Charlotte, which is absolutely gorgeous, but unbelievably invasive. So where you plant it, remember it will spread quite a lot. However, if you start to spread too much, you can always dig it a little piece up, pot it up, give it away to your gardening friends. Bear in mind that with perennials, in the winter time, a completely empty, bare border. That's the time to do a little bit of planning, looking forward to the spring, maybe replanting, and spring and summer, you've got some of the glorious borders, just like the ones we see in this garden. With a very deep border, it can be quite difficult. I've made that mistake myself many, many times. The border can be too deep, whereby you've got plants that require a lot of maintenance and looking at, you've got to get deep into the border. So you can put shrubs at the back, it could be anything, dependent on which aspect it is. Roses, very nice hydrangea growing there. You can get evergreens in, you can get magnolias, you can get Japanese maples, acers, and then grade it down to perennials, low-growing perennials, even to hellebores at the front of the border. This one has got salvias growing in. They're absolutely gorgeous. Not all salvias are hardy. The macrophylla one is quite hardy, but this one, this will be taken in the winter. So just bear in mind what you've got growing, and back to the label again, look into the ultimate height and spread. You don't want something here that high and something at the back that high. So just look at the label and do what the old gardeners do. Put it in. If it doesn't look right, wait until the end of the year and move it round. I'm with Lindsay Ellis, who's the head gardener here at Felley. And Lindsay, I noticed you're cutting back some Lysomachia there.
Yes, I am today, yes.
Is it because it's invasive, or are you thinking of planting something else?
It is a little invasive, not terribly, but we want to reduce it because we do want different varieties of other plants
Of course,
in here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find it's very, very popular with visitors, the fact that the flowers bend over?
Yeah, they always love them.
Yeah.
We just call them little swans.
Little swan necks,
If
yeah.
somebody asks for a swan plant,
Yeah.
we know it's a Lysomachia.
Yeah. So have you got anything in here that's really out of the ordinary?
Well, obviously we've got the trees that you
Yeah.
see, Felley latifolia. You don't very often see them shaped like
No,
this.
this is wonderful, isn't
Yes.
it, really? How long has the garden been like this? Because I noticed the bricks seem quite mature and quite old.
Yeah.
Has it been some time, or is it a fairly recent?
Well, obviously Mrs. Musters, it was her sort of brainchild to do this, and originally it was a medieval garden. And it had roses round it and bellis and carnations and things like that. This has only been a white garden the last 15 years.
Right.
We took everything out and started it up as a white garden because there seemed to be, everybody wants a white garden.
Yeah, yeah.
And people can take this away with them because it is pretty small.
It is, yeah.
So you can actually take a chunk of it and replicate it.
But it's got that, same as the whole thing at Felley, it's got the feeling of an English country garden.
Yes, the whole garden is planted like
Yeah.
that.
I know there's some tender and sort of unusual plants growing, but there's nothing really super exotic like palms and things.
No.
You've kept it to be the quintessential English garden, which I love that. So I think this is your passion, this garden, isn't it? Really?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
It's
can see
actually,
by your enthusiasm.
Yes.
How long have you been here?
I've been here 26 years.
26 years.
Yeah, but I didn't start in the garden. I started in the nursery.
Right.
I've only been in the garden the last 15 years, full time for some time, and now I've gone down to part time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I set a job sheet out my first day here, and we all worked to it. And obviously I've got volunteers, I've got my other gardeners, and we just stick to the job, we'll try and stick to the job sheet.
Yeah, I know it's almost impossible in the garden, isn't it,
yes,
really? Yeah.
depending on weather as well.
Yeah, but I must say, you do an absolutely marvellous job with this.
Well, thank you very
It's
much.
something
It's a great
very,
team
very
effort.
special. Yeah.
Yeah, we all work well together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I can see that. I feel the love that's gone into this garden.
thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Lindsay.
You're
It's
very
been a pleasure
welcome.
to speak with you. Sadly, we've no more time left at Felley Priory now, and I'm sure you'll agree it's been a wonderful, wonderful day. A true hidden gem of Nottinghamshire, a stunning, wonderful garden. And thanks to all the staff at Felley Priory, to the gardeners, to the tea shop staff, everyone who have made us so welcome. It's been a pleasure to be here. See you next time.
Hollybeck at Floralands, with plants galore and so much more. Hollybeck is the place to be. Sponsors of the Nottinghamshire Garden on Notts TV.